I posted this story on Instagram and I basically asked what you guys were struggling with print on demand and kind of got shocked because normally on my Instagram, like I definitely get replies, but this story in particular, there were so many replies and a lot of you were asking questions and like I said, similar questions. So that's why I wanted to make this video because I'm like, I want to be able to answer them for you guys and it's hard to get back to every single person. And so it's easier to just make a little video and talk about it. So I'm gonna actually like pull that up and go through the questions with you and answer it with my honest and just through my own, experiences and learning from doing this in the last 5 years. So yeah, and I do want to just mention where we're at in the print on demand world. Depending on where you're watching this, I am in the US and I do sell to mostly the US, but that doesn't mean that wherever you're at that you can't sell to the US as well. And I just want to give you some updates on some holidays and things that we have coming up and things to keep in mind because a lot of people think, oh, I didn't start my business in Q4 because obviously Q4 is the highest amount of sales mostly a year. A lot of people will do crazy sales in Q4, but Q2, okay, we have a lot going on. We have Mother's Day, which is a huge seller on Etsy. Please do not skip that. And we also have graduations coming up and we're getting into wedding season. I wanted to mention that though, because I think Mother's Day and Father's Day, of course, we have that coming up too. Are holidays that people do need to buy for and a lot of times struggle with what to get their parent or grandparent. And so it's a really great thing to add to your Etsy store. And that's actually gonna lead us into one of my most asked questions, which honestly, very valid question. And the first one, so that is going to be, if I have a niche specific store, can I add multiple products on my store? Okay, so when I say niche specific, what that means is that you're selling to a curated audience. So your niche could be professions where you sell to nurses, to doctors, to teachers, or maybe your niche is a specific type of pet lover. You sell to dog moms, to cat moms, to bird moms. Or maybe your niche is mental health or something to do with counselors and, people that are really about self-love. Maybe you want to sell things that cater to children or babies. So regardless of what your niche is, I think that there's like a misconception here about different types of products. So if your store is niche specific, that means that you can sell lots of different products in your store, but that are curated towards that niche. So for example, let's say your store is about different nurses, right? You created a whole Etsy shop that sells to nurses. Now, what you can do is you can sell mugs with nurse designs. You can sell sweatshirts with nurse designs. Whatever the product is that you want to sell, as long as you're creating designs that nurses would buy, right? Or that appeal to nurses, because that's your niche on Etsy. And I think a lot of times people think like if they're selling sweatshirts that they can't also sell other products, and that's not the case. And it also leads into digital products. If you want to sell a digital guide or a digital download on your store that is for nurses or what your niche is, you can absolutely do that. Now, Etsy isn't going to like pin you if you post a dog mom sweatshirt in your nurse store, right? If anything, if you want to do that, just keep everything organized by your shop sections and you're good to go. Like, don't overthink it too much. You can always have, a few different niches in your store if you're like starting out and you're trying to figure it out, but just keep everything organized and cohesive because the main thing with a niche specific store is your customer knows what to expect when they come to your store and they might actually buy more because they're already looking in that niche. Or you can also take that off of Etsy later on as a real branded website. And so it's just something important to keep in mind. And it's also easier to retarget buyers in a specific niche as well, like to create like a community. So hopefully that clears that up. And what I want to say about these holidays coming up is you absolutely can add items onto your store for holidays. Just think of your niche and think, can I incorporate this with the holiday? Or like I said, just create a separate shop section and add some Mother's Day stuff to your store and try to get some extra sales. You can always private the listings or let them, expire. You don't have to renew them, but it's all about like testing the waters. And that is an advantage to selling on a marketplace that we do have because it's not as like serious about the branding as it would be for a website. So next I want to talk about people that don't know where to start or feel like they're overthinking the process, because I was getting a lot of these of people mentioning like, I'm overthinking, I don't know where to start, I don't think anyone would like my products, and I just feel overwhelmed. Completely valid. completely valid. When you are starting anything new, when you're starting an online business, like it is extremely overwhelming. There's so many things in your mind you have to keep track of that you have to learn about, right? So I totally understand that. I'm gonna give like a pretty cliche answer, so I'm sorry, but it's just true. It's true for myself. It's true when I start anything. It's true for every single person that I've helped, that I've actually talked to, is that you just have to start. Take the first step. What is the first step? Maybe that's creating your Etsy account, creating your Printify account, linking them. And then you walk away. But you did a little bit that day to start. The next day, or whenever you have time, what do? You go in, you create a store name, you create your banner and your Etsy shop logo. Maybe you even create a design and list a product, right? It's about taking action, because it's the people that actually take the action that get the results, not the people that think about all the amazing ideas in their head. And I get it, like we have 1,000 things going on at all times, especially if you're working full time. But the way that I can say this in not a harsh way, coming from love, but also like get to it, is like, if you want it bad enough, just take the step. You'll figure everything else out. Think of like your first day at your job now that you're working, okay? Or that you've worked before. You walked in having probably no idea what you were doing. But what happened with experience and showing up every day, you started to understand it. So I think that is like the hump that we have to get over, especially when we're trying to start something new. And I think that things online feel so like, oh, I could do that. And then you like put everything in front of you and you're like, what the heck is going on? But that's why it's so great that we have resources like YouTube, like social media, or even online courses and stuff that can potentially be free, and you can learn all this information. So I do have playlists. If you go to my YouTube homepage, you can see my playlists, and I have so many step-by-step tutorials for doing print-on-demand listings. So if it's the issue of you don't know how to, I would say you don't really have that excuse. But if it's the issue of you don't know where to start, just create your account, start there. Then you can start looking on Etsy and saying, okay, I want to make something like that. Then you create your design and then you list. So it's really just like taking that action, and just one step at a time. You don't have to do every single thing on the first day, or else you're not going to get anything done. So next is one that I saw a lot as well, and that's about payment processing. And if I had to pick one thing that majority of people get stuck on with print on demand, it is payment processing. And why that is because I don't think it's talked about enough. I don't think the way that the actual payments with print on demand work is spoke about enough, because I think a lot of people like to say, you can start for free. And while that's necessarily, it is true, if you get a sale, you do need some money to have the print provider make that product for you. And I'm always transparent about this. It was something that when I started print on demand, like I literally looked online, watched a video, started print on demand. I had no idea that was a thing, right? And so I want to just tell people that watch my videos what's up. And yes, you do have to pay your print provider to fulfill your order. But to be fair, you don't have to pay them unless you get an order, right? So you are going to get that money from your customer, but in most circumstances, you're going to have to upfront the money to the print-on-demand supplier for them to actually, print and ship your product for you. When you list a product on your Etsy shop, on your print-on-demand store, wherever it may be, you need to look at how much Printify charges to print and ship that product. So let's say you are selling just a classic mug, and their price to have it printed and shipped for you is $12. Okay, let's say that. When you list that on Etsy, you need to look at the profit calculator when you're making your price, and you need to charge more than $12 so that if your customer buys from you, you still make a profit after you pay Printify. And once you understand how that money works, it's going to make it easier when you start getting an influx of orders. Now, I've talked to a lot of people that they set up their accounts and they start making profits. And then what happens is they start like paying their credit card bill and they're getting their deposits from Etsy, and they're super confused about how much money they're actually making, right? And it's easy to lose track of if, you're getting a bunch of sales and then you're paying on your credit card to Printify, you're like, wait a minute, like how much money am I actually making? When we have these print on demand businesses or online businesses in general, there's something that we need to keep up with, especially important, which is called bookkeeping. And like I said, a lot of that is intimidating. And with traditional business bank accounts, you have your checking account and your savings account and maybe a credit card, but like that's not all linked, right? And so it's difficult to see how much money you're actually making versus your expenses and maybe other bank accounts that you want to have available to you. And that's where I want to tell you about Relay, which is an online banking and money management platform. And it's built specifically for e-commerce businesses and is great for small business owners. What I love specifically about using it for print-on-demand shops is because we have all these different expenses and we're paying our print provider, we have to keep track of our expenses and how much we're saving to really see what we're profiting. And so it's really great because you can open up to 20 different individual checkings or savings accounts to organize your income so everything can be in front of you at once. And you can even separate your money for taxes or marketing or anything else that would be an expense, or also Printify transactions. And what's really great as well is that you can use a virtual card. So you can create a virtual debit card on your Relay account, and you can set that aside for specific print-on-demand transactions, which is a huge game changer for our POD sellers because it'll show you exactly what you're spending. And if you want to, you can even create another one for ads or for your mock-up tools, or even just keep all of your print-on-demand expenses all in one. I find this a lot easier when everything is just on one screen and you don't have multiple different accounts that you have to open. Like if you have different bank accounts to log into them and you have to see all the balances. But if you put everything into Relay, you can see it all in one screen, and then you can make account transfers to move your money around if need be, which is perfect for print on demand or online sellers. And something that's really great and important with Relay is they have no account fees or minimum balances. So it's perfect for small business owners, or if you're just starting out, or as I said, if you already have an existing account you want to switch over. And if you're someone like me that is ahead of things on tax season, or if you want to get ahead, they have an integration that is directly linked with QuickBooks. It's not third party, so everything goes right over to your QuickBooks account, which makes things a lot easier for tax season. I will have Relay linked in the description for you if you do want to check it out. I definitely think it's a great resource, especially for entrepreneurs, so that is in the description below for you. A lot of people ask me, is Shopify as easy as Etsy? Or like, should I use Shopify or Etsy? So let's talk a little bit about them and why they are different. I didn't know this when I first got started, but Shopify and Etsy actually operate completely different. So Shopify is an e-commerce website host, meaning that you are going to create your website from top to bottom, 0 to 100. You are responsible for creating that website, and it is a standalone website. You are not a part of a marketplace, right? So any traffic that is coming to your website, traffic meaning people coming to your website to purchase, has to be generated by you through SEO, through marketing, through ads, and people aren't just gonna like magically land on it. Now, Etsy is an e-commerce marketplace, which means there are already active buyers on the platform. There's like, I think the last statistic is like 90 million buyers that are active on Etsy, I think for 2024. But basically that means that there are active buyers every single day coming to Etsy, searching for products with the intent to make a purchase. And that is traffic right there. It's built-in customer system, right? Whereas on your website, there's a lot of pros to it as well of having a website, but it's not going to be as easy to maybe get that first sale without a marketing strategy. Whereas something like Etsy, you don't necessarily like need an external marketing strategy because you have those active buyers on the platform. So as long as you know how to target them correctly, you're good. And I think a lot of people don't know that about Etsy, or they'll like create a Shopify store and then they're like, no one's buying my stuff. And it's like, yeah, because you have to have a strategy to get people to your store. It's not like you just create a website, poof, and then people start ordering from it, you know? And it's something like Etsy, you have the credibility of someone purchasing from your store because they know it's legit. They know they're gonna receive their item because they're on Etsy. So it gives that like sense of credibility. And I also think it's easier to scale a Etsy shop with no experience because it's almost like having something hold your hand a little bit. That sounds kind of silly, but it's also kind of true. Like if you have an Etsy shop, it's gonna let you know if you have an order and you haven't fulfilled it yet. It's gonna let you know, different updates about your shop and just kind of hold you accountable, whereas a website might not do that. So I do think, in my professional experience, that having a Etsy store is a bit easier for that beginner, for that person that's never sold anything online before. Now, if you're somebody that is confident in your website, you have a whole vision of your brand. I know a lot of people that come to me say this, they're like, I know what I want my website to look like. I know what kind of products I want to sell. that is perfect for you to start a Shopify store. You have the vision, you have the idea, so it's gonna be easier for you to execute that into a full website, even if you wanna hire help from Fiverr to create it or whatever, but it's a lot easier for you to do that when you have the vision and the drive and the time to do a website, and it's a lot more creative freedom. You just have to know going into it what you're getting yourself into. And so many people contact me and say, I created an online store and I have no sales. And it's like, okay, what are you doing to get people to go to that store? Did you do nothing? Then that's why you don't have sales. It's not like a magic once it's on Google that you're gonna get sales. All right, so this one's great. It is, how do I find a good product to sell? So when it comes to picking a product, it's not easy, I will say that, but I want you to understand that like there are people every day buying things. It's not so much about the product, it's more about who is the buyer. And that's why like with e-com, you can make like cute stuff, right? But if nobody wants that cute stuff, you're not gonna get sales. So the success comes from the research and finding what people are buying. And the best way to do that is to scroll on Etsy, is to scroll on TikTok Shop or wherever it is that you want to sell and look at what already is selling. And that's how you're going to find your gold product. Here's the method. You want to find what people are buying. So let's say you want to do a search in like a coquette girly niche. You search the term coquette on Etsy. I want you to literally scroll and see what are the best sellers. Are you seeing phone cases? Are you seeing glass zipper cups? Are you seeing sweatshirts? Okay, take note of all those things. Now that we know what types of products, so maybe glass zipper cups, maybe blankets, whatever the product is, what are the designs that are on those products? And then what I love to do is I like to find, let's say, 3 or 4 best-selling designs, right? And then I like to combine certain things about those designs. So for a coquette niche, maybe you see a lot of bows, you see a lot of pinks, you see a lot of blues, you see a lot of doodles. How can we combine doodles with bows, with pinks and blues, and create a winning design to place on these products that we know people are buying in the niche? And the worst advice I can give you is to just throw 30 different random types of products on your store with a design, because like there's no research backing that. So the formula to find the perfect product is just in the research. Find what's selling and create something new and valuable and put it into the market. And that seems like hard to do, but once you start experimenting, you start listing. You have to list to find this out. You have to have a few failures to get that. But once you do it once, it becomes so much easier. It's like you just have to get those first like 3 or 5 sales, I promise you. And that will help you to really get the edge of like, okay, this can work. I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep going. So for a very long explained answer, do the research, see what's already best selling. If you don't know how to filter bestsellers on Etsy, once you search for something, you're gonna filter to star seller, and then you're gonna go up to your URL and delete star, type best, and that is how you're gonna filter bestsellers. Little Etsy hack there. And that will filter it out for you. And then you'll be able to see what the best selling things are for whatever that search term was that you typed in. You can also use a Chrome extension. This is really, really helpful in my research. I like to use Everbee's Chrome extension because as I'm scrolling on the different pages, I can see how much revenue they've made. I can see how many orders, how many favorites, and it's like right in my face while I'm scrolling, even when it's filtered on bestsellers. I do use other platforms as well that integrate with my Etsy shop, but I find Everbee to be absolutely amazing. And when I say research, like it doesn't have to be a 5-hour a day thing. Like you can take as much time as you have that day to do a little bit of research and then just save products in your favorites on Etsy and come back to them when you start creating. I'm not getting any views, which means I'm not getting any sales. How do I get sales? So a lot of these do say like getting sales seems to be an issue, and I totally understand that. And kind of like I said, like your first few sales are the hardest to really get and to curate, so let's talk about it, and let's kind of talk a little bit about what I just said, right? So if you're not doing that research, you can't really expect to get sales. So rewatch that part or redo the research, to really make sure that you're going to get traffic to your store. But if you're not getting sales, it can kind of tell you something about your store. So if you have no views, no sales. That means that your product is not wanted, especially if it's on an e-commerce marketplace. Maybe you just did your SEO wrong, or maybe what the product is that you're trying to sell just has no demand. So if that's the case, you need to add more products to your store after doing research and after really niching down and picking a specific thing that you do know people are looking for. Once you do that, you'll start to get views. Like, especially if you do have your SEO intact, that's something else we have to talk about. If you're not getting views, most likely it has to do with the product that you're selling. But in the case of you don't have an SEO strategy, that could also be it. So like, does your title, is it a curated Etsy title? Does it actually say what your product is with keywords? Because if it doesn't, that could be your main issue. But if it does, that just means that your product is not being searched for. So it's like, kind of weigh those things out. So if you look at your Etsy title, does it look like a curated Etsy title, or does it just say Coquette phone case? And I'm gonna finish off this video talking about marketing, because a lot of you ask me how to market your print-on-demand business. And while I talked about, when you're on an e-commerce marketplace, while it's not necessarily as, necessary as it would be for your own online business, like a Shopify store, there's definitely some things that you can do to really get momentum on your Etsy shop and to get more eyes on your listings. So first, we'll talk about social media. Social media is an incredible way to market your products for free. It has grown so much, and a lot of people think that you need followers or that you need money to promote products on social media, and that's really not the case, especially if you use TikTok. Now that TikTok allows you to do photo slide feature, like you can literally post a photo, like photo slides of your product and market it for free with hashtags. And then you can put your Etsy shop in your bio or in your description on your TikTok store. Such a great thing to do, and it's free. So if you want to utilize social media, what I would recommend is to create a TikTok account, do all of the same branding as your Etsy shop or your website has. Don't want to like use your like name and stuff. You want it to like look like your business's TikTok, and then start posting photo slides to trending audios and using hashtags in that niche that you have. And photo slides are great. Bonus points if you want to order a sample and actually take videos of your product. And I'm gonna make an updated tutorial on this because it is so asked about, but definitely doesn't need to be as complicated as you think. Also, something else that I love is Pinterest. And Pinterest may not be a social media platform, but it is a search engine. So it's related more towards like Google than it would be to like Instagram. But Pinterest is great because you can directly link your Etsy listing to your photo. And once you've already done your mock-up photos on your Etsy shop, you can just use those mock-up photos for your marketing. You don't have to make like separate photos. So you can take your, photo from your Etsy listing, post that on your Pinterest, use keywords just as you did on Etsy, and then actually put your exact product link to your Etsy shop on there so that if someone clicks your pin, they get pushed directly to your store. You can create Instagram as well, but what I wanna say with a marketing strategy is to not overwhelm yourself. A lot of people will like create a Pinterest account, an Instagram account, TikTok, and then like they're trying to keep up with all of it. Pick one, like create your Etsy store or your website, whatever, create that, and then pick one to do, because that way you'll have more focus and more energy to really put into that next, thing. And a big misconception on my channel is that because I have a lot of followers on like Instagram and TikTok, right? Or not like a lot, but you know what I mean, like a good amount. And so people think that the reason that I do so well in e-com is because I'm selling to those followers, but that's not who I'm selling to. None of my online stores you'll ever see posted. I don't post them. So it's like, you can still have successful online stores without a following. If you do the research and you see what's working and you add something new and valuable to the market, and not copy, but see and take inspiration from others that are already successful, that's a really great method that will really always work in your favor. And just learning more and taking time to watch videos like these, and you're doing all the right things. So hopefully this is helpful. I feel like there's a lot more that I could go over. Like, I can't believe how many replies to this. There was like almost 2,000 replies on my story, which doesn't seem like a lot, but like it is, because like Instagram stories, even with a good amount of followers, it doesn't always like push it all the way. Like the views don't typically be as high. So to have, I don't know how many views on a story had, but to have 2,000 people actually like reply and give, what they're feeling and how they're dealing with different things of, struggling to start all this is really, really cool. And maybe I'll make a part 2 of this. So let me know if you want to see more videos like this. Because there's other stuff that I would love to go, talk about. But I just want to say before I end this that a lot of people are saying self-doubt stops them, or they're just nervous to start. And like I said in the beginning, just start, just do it. And you'll figure it out along the way. Everything that I talked about in today's video or referenced will be linked below, including Relay. So if you want to check that out, it's in the description, and make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss out on further videos. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. I know it's valuable, and I will see you in the next video.